quorum, we'll start the public hearing continuation from last month. Zoning and subdivision ordinance amendments, lot width, cul-de-sacs, minimum buildable acres, and subdivision process.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is a continuation. The Planning Commission has discussed this for a few months. You last discussed it at your July 6th meeting. The primary issue that we're addressing is the allowance in the zoning ordinance for a 66-foot lot width. If the street frontage is on a curve or cul-de-sac, we've had some recent single-family subdivisions that have put a curve in a straight line roadway, and they can meet that, or could go as little as 66 feet. So we're addressing that issue. We also talked about potentially establishing lot widths at the building setback line as a more effective standard. I've reviewed that. I talked to some of my colleagues on that. Still feel that we should go with front lot line as opposed to the building setback line. I see some issues with adequate access for cul-de-sacs and preventing flag lots. A flag lot is where you have, a developer will subdivide off just a narrow driveway area and then develop behind a lot. So again, it increases the density. Some townships don't feel that is bad. Others do, so you may want to discuss that. I've made some changes. So I've left the language that you saw before in July as far as the setback or the lot width situation, again being the front lot line. Haven't changed anything with cul-de-sacs. Minimum buildable acres, the 1.25 being reasonable as we've discussed. Looked at the process. One thing that I added, I don't know if we discussed this, we probably have. The plats containing 5 or fewer lots shall not be subject to the sketch review process. Because again, these really small subdivisions where they're just dividing lots, a couple of lots, it made sense to not require a sketch plan on that. And then the process, looking at administrative approvals, we're just a boundary line, so they're taking and moving the lot line back and forth within those same 2 lots. Division of lots into 2 lots. Anything more than 3 lots then would require a final plat, or a preliminary and final plat. So that's essentially what we've talked about. And yeah, I guess that's just an introduction for the public. We'll discuss this further in the meeting, but I think you can just open it up for additional public comment.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I got one. I was gonna go. Go ahead.
Let's get it.
Your guys' preliminary plat application, we're doing a plat in Baldwin Township right now. They're $15 a lot, $25 per lot, plus $375. I called Sandy County and I asked them how much they were. They said it makes no difference if you do 1 lot or 50 lots, it's $500. You guys are at $500 per lot. I also got one, I think Eldon, who checked into Malacca. Did you hear from them?
No, they didn't answer me back yet.
And I also called Oak Grove. My brother's doing a plat in Oak Grove right now, and I haven't got the numbers. All this hit me on last Thursday, and I went out of town on Friday, so I didn't get a really good chance to do it. But Baldwin Township is, to be honest with you, if their park dedications here is $800 a lot. I don't know what Sandy's is, I forgot to ask. You guys are $1,200 a lot. Not to say anything, be right up front, but I full-heartedly believe Greg Anderson just took the dollar amount and raised them and wrote them on this plat on your deals. You're by far higher than anybody in the around surroundings for prices on that. Which, for me to do my plats, for the plats that we did with you guys, is in excess of $17,000 that we've given you. If I'd done this in Baldwin Township, which is the land is more valuable, it would have cost me $1,200. That's a huge difference.
Just in a response, I would say that's what the township board has, that really hasn't been a planning commission item, but the township board has established those. I don't know what the history is. It was that way when I came on board approximately 1 year ago. And the town board did reaffirm every year they go through their fee schedules and reaffirm that. So that's really an issue for the town board if they feel that they're too high.
Sure, I figured I'd just bring it up to both, that's all.
It's
No
reasonable to
worries.
do that, yeah.
Craig from Bogart Peterson Associates. Scott had sent me the report about the recommended zoning changes, I guess, but I'll admit that I've been working 16-hour days and they get a good chance to read through them all. But I do have a couple questions and comments. First, Scott, is the preliminary and final being joined together for simple sorts of boundary line adjustments? Is that included in here, or is that?
We already have a process for the R1 district to have those combined.
Okay.
But anything, the way it's written now, we can do administrative for the boundary line adjustments.
Okay.
If we're just splitting one lot into two, that can be done administratively. Simple plats, in the R1 can be combined, and then everything 3 or more would require the preliminary and final plat process.
Okay.
That's how we have it set up now.
Okay, because the one I have in mind is that Studebaker Acres, which is on the agenda again tonight for final plat. And it didn't quite meet the administrative process because it was 300 feet in width versus 400.
Right.
And it's just splitting up one 300-foot strip, but it takes 3 months to do it because we got to go through the preliminary for plat process for planning commission, then the town board, and come back for the preliminary, or the final plat for the planning commission and town board. And most jurisdictions are working for simple plats, usually it's 3 or less, or maybe 5 or less, or whatever you guys deem. But then you can go through the preliminary and final at the same time if there's nothing too complicated about it. For example, Studebaker Acres on the agenda, nothing's changed in the last month and a half, but we're just waiting to go through the process. And if you're in real estate or any sort of other industry, you know that timing is important. You might have a deal set up for 30, 45 days to closing. And, obviously if you have to go through the process, people understand that, they're willing to hold on. But for a simple task, splitting off one lot for a plat, it seems a little excessive to go through preliminary and final 4 meetings, I guess, just for that simple process. That was a side note that didn't really have anything to do with this today, but just something to consider.
And just to remind the planning commission, what I just indicated is that this particular situation with Studebaker as well as with Lundberg's could have been done administratively if we have these provisions in place. So
Yeah.
trying to move it forward, make it a little easier.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that because it's frustrating to everybody involved. You guys have to waste your time looking at it. The landowners have to go through a long process and possibly the situation changes with the economy, their sale, and then we as surveyors don't like it either. People always think, hey, it's great for you guys to get more work, but we'd rather do 5 $1,000 surveys in a week than one $5,000 survey over 3 months, because it's just, I'm back here every 2 weeks. It's like, come on, not that complicated. But anyway, so I appreciate Scott working to at least streamline the boundary line adjustments and administrative stuff. Might want to add some language in there as far as simple plats or something, plats with less than 3 lots or something like Sherwood County, for example, where you go through preliminary and final at the same time, where you have less than 3 lots, there are no new roads being constructed, no grading, and stuff of that nature where there aren't a lot of details to sort through. If you're not creating a new road, no ponds, it's just drawing new lines on paper.
So Craig, the one thing, the way this is set up now, if you have a division of lots like Studebaker, we would allow under this new provision just to do it by certificate of survey, and you dedicate the right of way. So you don't.
If it's 400 feet or more, is that correct?
No, it's just any of those, as long as they meet the zoning requirements.
Okay.
We have it such that you can do that.
Okay, well then you're probably all right there.
That's all right.
I was just looking in the handle here, it still said 5 acres and 400 feet.
And that's what it says, we can do those administratively also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything platted, as long as it meets the zoning ordinances, you can do that?
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
But you can't do less than 5 acres and still plat though? Or less than 400 acres and still keep it administrative, sorry.
You could still do it by certificate of survey administratively. Yeah.
Didn't Studebaker do a plat?
He did.
But we're trying to get around that situation next time, but, you know, so if I have a lot that's 300 feet wide, like Studebaker's case,
If you have something that meets the zoning requirements, you can do it administratively, if you're just splitting two lots.
just 2 lots.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then anything 3 or more, as it states on page 8, division of lots, subdivision of property into 3 lots or more shall require a preliminary and final plat.
Okay, and that's where, you know, the plat, I guess I like to see 2 tiers of platting, you know, like a simple plat where there's no new roads. And it's basically, I guess, doesn't add anything to go through 4 meetings. It's just, there are no new roads being created, it's just, you're going through 3 lots instead of 2. But that's something that Scott can maybe look at a little bit more.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you lost me on Studebaker's. Now, if Studebaker's didn't do that, how come you did his as a plat?
Because we don't have the provisions right now.
Oh, you're working on it,
This is
I see.
correct.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And then, I guess going to where you measure the lot width, I'm still a huge advocate for measuring that at the setback line versus the front lot line. I think the intent of most ordinances that I read is to have a buildable area. Well, you can't build from the front setback line to the road anyway, and you want your lot width. And by nature, you know, having it measured at the front lot line creates irregular shaped parcels, and because you're trying to fit in the ordinance at the front lot line versus utilizing the property the best way possible. And I think one example might be this 3-lot plat in your packet today, or 5 lots, 5-lot subdivision.
That's the one in section 3.
Section 3, you know, you have the minimum lot areas. So in this river conservation district, I believe it's 10 acres. You know, so you're bound by the acreage anyway. So your density is the same. So you're not, by making a road frontage 330 feet wide, you're not gaining anything other than funny shaped parcels. Because the density is the same, so you're gonna try to squeak out the same density. But if you look at the sketch and, you know, I talked to their surveyor and you know, with the 330 along the right of way, it really restricts the lot configurations, and secondly, it adds more road frontage that the township's gonna need to maintain. You know, you can, so we're talking about adding frontage just to add frontage to meet your ordinance. So you gotta build, you say you wanna put 2 lots in, instead of building 400 feet, maintain 400 feet, now you gotta build 700 feet and maintain that much more road, crack seals, everything else in the future too. And by having it measured along the setback line, I feel like versus the front lot line, we're accomplishing the intent of the code, you know, as far as buildable areas, lot widths. You're still bound by the acreage. Go ahead, Scott, you look like you want to say
Oh,
something.
no.
I can't read your lips, but I can see you guys.
Yeah, I'm from Hendrick County. I feel it's kind of necessary for me to come up here and use the math, so. Yeah, I guess my thought with that is, you know, I went back and forth, and again, talked to, you know, some of the others. One of our other people that work in our office does the city of Nowthen, which is the old Burns
Yep,
Township.
Yep.
And, you know, I guess there was a real reluctance to go to that. I think one of the points made up again is we'd have to put in probably a specific provision so we don't have that situation with the flag lots. Because
You
you've
wouldn't
got
have a flag lot.
Well-
You can't, because you have to have 200 feet at the setback lines. There's no, flag lots are a 33-foot strip for a quarter mile.
For
of
a
the
quarter
fence,
mile.
or whatever. And so, and whether you have 330 feet at the road or 200, if it's unusable as an access, say you got wetland, you know, so you still have to avoid the wetland. So you can't create a lot whether it's 300 feet wide or 200 feet wide and not have a viable access for the new lot. So that argument, as far as we needed 330 feet to have appropriate road access, I think is.
And maybe if we had at least 66-foot minimum for the cul-de-sac.
Sure.
And apply that to everything. I could see that. I would like to see some more examples of that. Again, what I looked at is I wouldn't see that many examples in a township situation of them measuring at the building setback line as opposed to the front lot line. So I can't anticipate all the, the issues with it. But, I got a little uneasiness moving that.
And what are the uneasiness parts of it for you again?
Again, I don't know what the unknown situation with certain lots can be, because so many other townships are using it at the front property line as opposed to the building setback
And
line.
which townships are those? 'Cause I haven't seen, I do a bulk of my work in townships and you do a bulk of your work in cities.
Right. And everyone is going with, at the building setback line? I guess the one.
Yeah, the majority, I would say, in all the rural areas are at the setback line. Typically is what I see in Sherman County,
When
Benton County.
you,
and stuff.
tomorrow, email me a list so I can take a look at it.
Okay, yeah, it's all there, so.
Yeah, no, it's all there. I just, I spent a little time taking a look at it, and the ones that I saw were all at the, up front.
Well, I think, in my line of work, and maybe Elder can speak to this too, we can still accomplish it, but I think all we do is find a way to make it work with the same density, and it just creates and breeds odd shaped parcels. That people don't want bends in their lots, they want nice, either, they want 4 lines on their property, they don't want 6 or 7, and, get disorientated, so in my mind, having to measure this front setback line versus the front lot line allows more flexibility for us, to swing our lines like this or like this without having them come up and then we bend it around to try to make the acreage work and get our densities.
So if we did that, you wouldn't have an objection, again, to keep that 66-foot minimum at the front building line for cul-de-sacs and for all lots? essentially.
Well,
So we have that.
at the front building line or front lot line?
At the front lot line.
Okay, because you can put that in there. I don't think it's necessary. It just complicates things having, 66 feet here, 330 there. I mean, most places I work, it's just boom, 200 feet at the front setback line. And by nature, you have, in order to make a lot on a cul-de-sac, and get the 200 feet, by the time you get up to the setback line, you have to have so much road frontage anyway on that cul-de-sac, and we have to create a viable access to a lot. So the 66 feet is just there, I guess, from before to make sure that you have appropriate road access, but I don't think it's necessary. You're gonna have that no matter what, because you need 200 feet, 100 feet off the road, so you're not gonna go from 0 to 200, because that's gonna have an odd shaped parcel too, but I guess and I don't think there's gonna be a flag lot situation, that's just,
Yeah, I can see that, that would be difficult.
it's not possible, yeah.
And on Silver Lake Oaks, when we first laid that out, Craig had a cul-de-sac in there. We had more tar and 21 lots. With no cul-de-sac, less roads, you got 21 lots. So that's beneficial to you guys. Less tar, 1 more lot. Without a cul-de-sac.
Well, it's something, I guess, it's ongoing discussion. We don't have any pending plats right now, so I'm not so concerned if we continue this discussion. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind, give me a list of the townships that you have worked with that.
Sure.
Because again, I'm just going back through what Dan Lichten and Liz were saying. They're kind of going, stick with the front property line. I'd probably have to explore that a little bit more.
Yeah.
With them, but.
You three wouldn't mind calling me too. Can
Yeah,
talk
we
about
can do
it,
that
because
too.
I gotta talk to Liz about a couple of things here too.
Okay.
Actually, it was a meeting I was supposed to be at tonight for her, but.
Oh.
But anyway, I guess that's my 2 cents, and we'll continue working through it, but I appreciate the township taking the opportunity to look at these things, because I think they were somewhat poorly written, it was complicated. It said this here, that there, and it would be a benefit to you and everybody else to go through what you guys are doing, so I appreciate you doing that, so, thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Talking about the Denhigh Estates at all, the 17 lot flood subdivision that they were trying to blow at our cul-de-sac on 76.
Yeah, we'll be discussing that.
That is the
Yeah,
18th.
there's agendas up there if anyone needs.
Yeah, because it says it's plotted lot subdivision of that 17 on First and 75th.
Yeah, so it's further down on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go on the open forum too, but you could also discuss it, because we will be discussing it in the agenda.
Yeah.
Any other comments, I guess?
If not, we close public hearing? We don't need a motion.
No.
Okay, and it is 6:35. We'll start our regular meeting. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We want to approve the agenda. Anybody make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll approve it, make a motion to approve.
Kathy approves. Second, anybody second? Second.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll second it. Okay. Open forum? Anybody have any comments?
Oh, you have to take a vote on that?
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Make a motion to vote on the...
It'd be, no, it'd be all in favor of the motion.
All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And open forum.
Joel Minks, resident over by the river here. First I want to make one thing perfectly clear. I know realtors and I know guys, but there's not a dollar in it for me. I'm not connected to any realty or anything, so I'm not here to make a buck. But I was just wanting to point out, and I know that comprehensive plan is kind of due for renewal. And obviously Scott is here about some development again. And I would just want to point out, there's a development called Rolling Meadows. And that's about 3/4 of a mile east or west of, what do they call the old curve now?
I don't know. Depends on which week.
Oh, well, I believe it's Daddy-O's.
Yeah.
But it's out on 95, there's a bar out there. And this development is 3/4 of a mile west. And I believe that was George and Carl Sanford did that many years ago. But if you look at that, or look at the plat, that's 25 acres roughly, and there's 15 lots, not too far from what Scott's proposing. And I challenge anyone to drive out there and drive through that development and find a single thing wrong with it. I mean, it's a neat, I believe all 15 lots are full roughly. It's a neat little place, new houses, no junk in the backyard. The lots are basically 1.25 acres. So you don't have the 2.5 acres where it fills up with junk in the backyard. So I think before anything is said, like with Scott, go out and look at that as an example of what these developments could look like, and probably will look like. And as far as I think with this one and this Rolling Meadows, that's kind of a perfect place between County Road 1 and Highway 95 for houses to be built. You got natural barriers, roads on either side. There's some reasonable farmland, but the biggest problem for the farmers would be if that was developed more, is their land would go from 3,000 an acre, roughly what farmland is worth, to 10,000 an acre or more. There's some big owners out there. Habenschilds have quite a chunk. Tom Brown has 20 acres, Wilhelm's have some, so I mean, but it's sand land and it's not the most productive, so if you wanna put houses somewhere, that's better than sprinkling them around out in the heavy farming ground. So I just think in a comprehensive plan, that may be something, if you wanna create a higher density, acre and a quarter lot area, that to me is not a bad place to put it. There's access onto County Road 1 in a number of places. There's a couple of accesses onto Highway 95, so it's not like a landlocked area. So just a thought for your consideration is go out and look at Rolling Meadows. And that's been there, I'm gonna guess about 15 years, and it's just like a shiny new penny yet. So, just a little thought process. Thank you.
Any more comments? Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I'm once again here on behalf of the landowners on 76th Avenue. We asked nicely.
And who are you?
I'm Eric Cumia, I own a property right on 76, yeah. And you guys want to blow it out, take a cul-de-sac, it's been a cul-de-sac for 45 years, 40 plus years since it was established, and blow it out so you can put 17 homes in. Scott wants to pull 17 homes. My question I have for you is, he has access off of County Road 1. He is trying to basically, a railroad goes to the township, because he does not want to deal with the county. Because there's setbacks, there's rules, he's gonna lose some lots when he does it off County Road 1. But it makes more safety sense, reliable access to come off County Road 1 versus 76. 50 extra cars a day, with all the families that we have, not to mention the 3+ million, we are all planning on being here on August 18th to voice our opinion against this, blowing out our cul-de-sac. The other question I have is, where is the stormwater drainage for his plot? Because if 3 of his plots drain between my house and my neighbor's house, we'll then have flooding issues, which will then be part of the township's responsibility, because you approved the subdivision law plus his, because when you cultivate land, soil compaction happens, stormwater drain runs. So we are having issues, both me and my neighbor, our lot gets that deep or more between our two houses. We can maybe take on one more new home, because all of Den High Estates drains to our 2 lots, right in between us. So I have 8 other homes that drain downward in between our 2 homes. Now, if you add 3 more over here, we now will be flooded. And we're gonna end up with water issues in our basements, everything else, and we don't have any water issues now. The other thing is, if you look right behind our 2 lots, there's a cul-de-sac they built years ago. Because of water drainage, they actually had to build a sinkhole, a 25-foot deep sinkhole, because they found that trying to drain it into our 2 lots again would flood us up. So they actually had to so-far build an actual sinkhole. So where is the land designated for his drainage, his stormwater runoff? Where is it gonna be? It's not in his plot diagram. I don't see any stormwater runoff plot diagram, sinkhole, low-lying area for the drainage. So all of our neighbors, not only do we not want you to blow up 76, it's been a cul-de-sac for 40 years, we want to know where the stormwater is going to go. You know, it's a viable question, where's stormwater going to go? Because it's going to happen. I mean, I have years that we can float a boat, fire up a motor between our 2 properties. And it goes up to my neighbor's window and it goes up just underneath my window. Now these are basements that are built up quite a bit, so I mean, to have that much, have 300 feet of water standing, basically the whole length of your lot, and then have it be over 2 feet plus deep in the back, sometimes 3. Survival question. So in the site plan that he has, I do not see stormwater drainage anywhere. There is a trailer. We all know that there possibly was a chance. This trailer's been there 35 years. We know there possibly could be a new home built there. We could probably take one of those on, I don't know. We may be able to take stormwater from that, but if you're talking 4 homes in this sublot subdivision on top of the stormwater runoff from him blowing out the road, you're asking for a lot of water to go somewhere, and it has only one place to go. That's between our 2 homes, which causes irreparable damage, along with the property values.
So just quickly, to answer your questions, we're a long ways away from dealing with drainage with this. It's obviously consideration, and will be considered if it moves forward. What the town board did at its last meeting, I was going to get into this when it's on the agenda, is that they authorized you guys to go ahead and start doing a zoning study. He's got comprehensive plan issues and zoning issues well before we even get into the drainage aspect. So I just want to let you know, town board authorize you to start that study. We haven't done that yet. Obviously, we've got a lot of stuff on our plate right now, but probably we'll start it.
Yeah, we're finding out about these as we go, because we're finding out last minute, because there's no real notifications about township board meetings, zonings, anything like that. It's very-
Well, and you will be, if it goes to preliminary plat, you will be notified. If you're within the 1,000 feet, 750 feet, you will be notified. Again, we're just in sketch plan, we're discussing the basics of it.
Okay, 'cause we've already submitted 2 petitions against it. They've
Okay, I
already
haven't
submitted as of
seen
last
anything
week.
like
We've already submitted some petitions against it. Landowners have already submitted, and that's why I said on the 18th, we plan on having at least 10 of us here.
And I don't think
$3+
it'll
million
be,
worth
sir,
of
it
homes.
won't be on the agenda on the 18th. So it's at the planning commission right now.
Okay.
So the planning commission is going to be discussing it next month in more detail, whether we should do a rezoning and comprehensive plan change. So, in fact, I should ask Scott to withdraw the sketch plan in the meantime while we're studying.
Yes, because, I mean, obviously you guys railroad, and it feels like we're being railroaded as landowners. We're like, wait a minute, what's this?
Actually, we're not railroading, we're going back and studying it to see if it makes any sense.
Okay. So that's what I was making sure, because I was told to basically be here because they couldn't. So.
No, I appreciate that, thank you.
Well, you got green and all your volumes.
Any more comments from anybody? Open forum? If not, we'll close open forum.
Sir, did you sign your name by chance so we have you for the record? Excellent.
Okay, we can go on to approve the meeting, minutes of meeting for July 6, 2020. Any corrections? Additions? That was good for me.
Cindy, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Kathy approves,
I'll second
first and Cheryl
Seconded.
seconds it. Any more discussion?
And those who weren't at the meeting can just abstain.
Oh, okay. Then I can't
She
second.
can't.
Yes,
Then I will
I'll-
second it,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Good.
I was kind of wondering, but I thought, okay.
Okay, any more discussion on this? Acceptable.
Yes.
Yes. So, no more discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And then any abstentions too.
Yeah,
Say that?
So,
we're abstaining.
Oh, yeah, and
You're
then
abstaining.
Yeah.
Cheryl,
Yeah.
and Carol abstained,
Yeah.
right,
okay.
right. Okay. Woods Push Lot final plat.
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have an application for Woods Push final plat. At your last meeting, you reviewed the preliminary plat. It's a 5-lot subdivision on a total of 96 acres. 3 of the lots directly access County Road 135, and 2 others on 67th Street, which extends between the lots and ends in a hammerhead. It's zoned River Conservation District, and the subject site is in the Weldon Scenic River District. Again, at your July 6th meeting, you recommended the preliminary plat. No changes of note to this. It's essentially as was presented with the preliminary plat. I think we've covered pretty much all the issues in terms of the access and so forth. There is some right-of-way, or at least an easement that would need to be vacated by the town board that would extend beyond that platted cul-de-sac, and we're addressing that as we move forward. So with that, we're essentially recommending approval of it, and that is just a simple final plat for a preliminary plat that has been approved. Any questions?
You said cul-de-sac, you meant hammerhead, right? They're doing a hammerhead.
It's platted as a cul-de-sac, but will be constructed as panels.
motion to approve?
I motion to approve it.
As a final plat?
Yeah, as a final plat.
And
In a second.
Cheryl seconds it. As a final plat.
Any discussion?
Yeah, any more discussion on this?